Good morning, everyone. How are you? So, it is getting towards the end of the week, and many of you have already assessed what you got done and didn't get done for the week and where it is you want to go. But I've been having an interesting week and a fun week. Met a lot of new people in ways that a few months ago I didn't even know that opportunity existed. And as some of my friends know, that when I'm on these videos or I'm speaking in a group, um, I'm fairly um, well enough informed that preparation might be nice, but conversations are easy. And so, whether I'm in front of somebody on a video or in a group and I'm asked to provide some value, um, I find it fairly easy to do. And that comes from years of being an educator in front of people, having to think on my feet. So it's one of the paradigms about my life that I appreciate is that I can stay mentally active enough to still think on my feet. So I love it. I love it. And I found it's been hard for me or challenging for me, not impossible, over the last couple of years where my public appearances and ability to be in groups and crowds was limited. And many of us have had the same situation. So I've been working to shift my paradigms on communication and connecting with more people and how to get it done. But I felt like I was offered a gift this week with some people I've met in a very new platform that I'm enjoying the engagement with. And in fact, this week, I thought it was delightful. I've met people from Australia, Norway, Africa, South Africa, um, and Canadians. I know a lot of Canadians, but man, in the last 5 years, my Canadian connections have just skyrocketed. And there's a lot of good, fun stuff going on out there in the world, and all because these people have thought, well, why does it have to be that way? Why couldn't it be this way? Why does it have to be that way? Why couldn't it be this way? That's when you have a paradigm shift. So we, as just individuals, can also have those paradigm shifts. So it's not something big and miraculous. We're not looking to make the news or whatever. But when we look at the patterns we have in our life, and we go, does that pattern of behavior, activity, does it still support me? It may be time to let it go. It may be time to let it go. But you do want to fill the void. You don't want to feel like you lost. What you want to feel when you're reframing your patterns, changing your paradigm of expectations and how you thought you were going to get there to a new way that you want to get there. You only look at what has occurred as samples of what you may not want to do again. So don't get invited back into your rut and old thinking. That's what a paradigm shift is. That's what any one of us who say something has to be better, different, easier, smoother, whatever. And so a lot of us are spending, good morning, a lot of us are spending time watching what others are doing. But you have to ask yourself, when you're watching what other people are doing, it will probably be a stretch for you. There's something in your behaviors, in your patterns, in your personal expectations of yourself that might say, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. Well, let me just say something that Paul Coelho said once. He said, a mistake once is a mistake. The same mistake a second time is a decision. The same mistake the second time is a decision. So why is it a lot of people repeat and think that, well, if I just join this network marketing company or this network marketing company, it'll be different? The question we always need to ask ourselves anytime we're saying, I've got to change, is we've got to ask ourselves first, what about me has to change? What about my skills needs to get upgraded? What about my point of view could add a little more dynamic to what I'm doing? How could getting connected with people who are successful, listening to them and seeing, could I just take one nugget from this person and one nugget from this person and create a new formula for me? That is a paradigm shift, or I simply call it reframing. So sometimes we have to reframe our attitude. Sometimes we have to reframe our behavior. Sometimes we have to reframe and build skills. So I've been reframing for years in many, many ways, because I find that I'm very dissatisfied sometimes if things stay exactly the same, because I know there's always a way to fine tune, to upgrade, to improve my behaviors. Now, I may not always get the message in time, and I may feel like I made a mistake, but when I do that, I certainly don't decide to stick with that mistake. I decide to do something different, and I go looking, I go exploring. So, I've been exploring different avenues for success tools, success communities, like-minded people since the beginning of COVID, because as a high needs people person and a highly verbal person, to just put things in words sometimes does not satisfy my appetite for connection. So I know how to connect with you out there, but I have a big appetite for connection. I have a big appetite to laugh with you. I have a big appetite to hear what you have to say and see if it turns on a light bulb for me. I have a big appetite for just not always doing the things the same way, because it's a little adventurous if you just do it a different way. And I know that change adventure scares many, many, many of you. But I got to tell you, what's the payoff for being scared? What's the payoff for staying with what you're always doing? What's the payoff if you're living in stress? So I can talk about stress because I got to tell you, I had to sell a business because I was too stressed to run it anymore. Now I sold it and I had a plan and I evolved out of it. But I became very, very aware of patterns in my life in my early 30s. And there were always circumstances that set it up, and my body would like throw me into a tailspin. And it was like I had to sit down and go, okay, body, what's going on? And when I listened to my body, I realized that the stress wasn't going to be solved with a drug. The stress was usually going to be solved with either more time for myself. In one case, it was a dietary change. And it was very simply implemented because my point of stress had me eating fast foods every day so I could quickly get to the office and get on the next emergency. You see, the first year I owned my own business, we lost half of our business to one major client. So we diminished the staff. We went to work really, really fast. And within 6 months, we were back to where we were with a variety of clients, to the point that we didn't have 50% in one bucket. All right. So we learned a lesson, but I also learned a health lesson that time around stress. Well, I learned another lesson later around stress. So, sometimes we have to relearn our lessons. And this one was when my business partner decided she wanted out, because she wanted out of everything. She was getting a divorce. The business was fine with her, but it was going to leave her in a community that was where her ex was. And she didn't want to be there. So that's good. I sucked it up and said, great, I'll do this. And we brought in a silent partner. So that meant I was still the managing partner. And I had a staff of 50. most of them part-time, but still had a staff of 50. And then there were other things that went on with this business. It was an intense business because it was basically managing other people's real estate investments, and that means every day is filled with emergencies. And this is, we're talking the 80s here. So when we had 200 phone calls a day, there's no emails, and most of them, 75, let's say about 30% were for the rental properties, and about 70% were, I need this fixed, what about this? Or we did owner conversations around expenses that need to be paid. So it was an intense place to be. So I worked 80 hours a week and just pushed, but I would allow myself vacations. What I didn't do is I didn't wind down a week before I went vacation. I only wound down on the airplane. So what do? 1984, I get off the airplane, I go to I'm on a ski trip, and I get to the mountains and the altitude's up there, and I got this headache, but I don't pay attention to it, right? And boom, the next day skiing, I break my knee. My ACL's just done. So that I had a very interesting situation, but I basically had to rely on the whole world to help me because I drove a stick shift. Couldn't drive a stick shift. My dad had to come down and help me. I had to rely on others. So my old independent streak, my paradigm of I got this, I can do this, shot me in the knee, right? So I had a lot of reflection time in that 6 months, and I made an agreement, that 6 weeks, and I made an agreement with my body that, hey, I need you to get my attention, but it doesn't need to be dramatic. I just need to know when I'm not paying enough attention to my stress levels. And before you have to knock me down, please send me a message in another way. So that was when I started I'd get colds or something, and I'd recognize a cold as stress, okay? And I would take some time off to do that. And I eventually got very, very savvy with self-care in the area of stress. I didn't need a whole bunch of like taps on the shoulder, right? Or because the more mistakes you make that are stress related, the more your body takes a toll. So one of the big paradigm shifts that I've had to make in my life is I can run hard, I can run fast, and I may be over 70, and I got the energy of 50-year-olds. But you know what? My body needs a slower pace. Even though this is fully functioning and energized and excited to teach, I got to bring this along. This has got some mileage on it, right? So I do a lot of things to shift the paradigms. I shift diet. I shift sleep. I shift a lot of things. So when I see disruption in my physical self that some of us might call stress, my alarm goes on and I go, what is it that I need to reframe? What paradigm do I need to reshift? And this is how I change not only my life, but people's concepts of aging. You know what? I don't keep doing the same things I used to do. It just doesn't work for me. So even though I have this energy and I love to be in front of people, you know what doesn't work for me anymore? It doesn't work to stand at a trade show for 12 hours. I got the stamina of a moose. But you know what happens? If I do that, I will have to take the next day and maybe the next day to recuperate. So I choose to not have this paradigm where I push myself to the limits, where now I got to lose 2 days to recovery. So I have built in a pace that allows me to restore nightly with great sleep, stay physically active with a proper dietary foods, and actually eliminating sugars, because sugar stresses my body out. If I have sugar, I've got 2 hours of a brain fog that doesn't work for me. So why do I want the sugar when I like to get up at 5:30 in the morning and do a meditation and do some education and then get working for the day and then talk to my mentoring clients and then get to do what I did yesterday, which was get on 3 different classrooms type events and to meet people from all over the world. So when you know what it is you value, and one of them is interaction and involvement, and your contribution to groups allows you to feel whole, then it's really easy to give up patterns that don't work for you. But here's where I think people get in a little bit of a challenge. They don't really know what pattern is going to work for them. They're looking outside of their body at what they're doing that, they're doing that, they're doing that. I should do this, I should do this, I should do this. No. What you want is someone who can teach you those formulas once there's a conversation held around, does this formula really support you? Does this formula really work in your life? Does this formula that somebody else is doing actually bring you value? Does it fit your values? If it doesn't, it's time to have a paradigm shifting conversation with me. You just got to get a hold of this successwithmarla.com. And I'm going to, and there's a link in there where you can talk to me. I'm safe. I've been helping people with this for years. You need to ask all the people that I mentored and that went on to do some other things. They're out there. But you know what? Mentoring simply means I am a way station on your way to finding your patterns, your paradigms, getting into reframing. And you may work with me for a while, and then you may find that, hey, somebody else has got something that you'd like to try also. But I'm going to have you in a better frame of mind around how to play change according to your style and how to keep out of stress when you're trying to implement a change that's most likely necessary for you to become profit-based and successful with what you have in your mind as your life's goals. So I know this was a little heavy this morning, but I just felt moved to celebrate some of the things and the awarenesses that I got to experience again this week around how I love to interact with people. And that's conversation, group interaction, conversation. So if you're ready for that conversation, successwithmarla.com. All my information is in there for contact, and that's going to get you on my email list too. So that if you're not ready to talk to me right now, we'll stay in touch until it is the right time for you to talk to me. Have a great day.